What's up, everybody? Welcome to Fanatically Speaking. I'm Kent.
I'm Logoff. I'm the Logoff legend. And we're here to say everything that every fan is thinking, but louder and probably a little crazier. Get ready. This is Fanatically Speaking with Kent and Logoff. You know what's funny? Like, I'm not a social media hater. I'm a social media hater. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't want people to think that I get on the internet and start hating people on social media. That's not what I do.
The first half was absolutely horrible. You know, just inept offense, inept defense, special teams, you name it.
I'm going to turn into Oprah. Why were you so angry?
He sucks this season. This game, whatever's going on, right? And the very next pitch, guess what they do? They double homer, and he's like, "Told you, Dad. Why are you always knocking down people?"
You got the highs and the lows.
Yeah, so I do that.
You need the highs and the lows, and
so I do that. Yeah, but
I'm trying to be the voice of reason here.
I am what I am. What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Fanatically Speaking. I'm Kent, the co-host and promoter.
I am Logoff, the Logoff legend, the hater of social media. I am the co-host and producer of the show.
Well, to this episode, we're going to get into the NFL as it stands currently. It was a wild Sunday, a lot of stories, a lot of things going on.
It was so much stuff, man. And we hopped in the group chat back and forth all day during the day, watching all of the games. The first thing obviously grabbed everybody's attention was the Jaden Daniels injury. You know, Sunday night game, a lot of eyes on it. And, you know, he was a up-and-coming, good young quarterback. You know, and I think the Commanders had a lot of high hopes this year. So watching that injury take place, I think it was a left dislocated elbow.
Yeah.
So left dislocated elbow. It was ugly to watch. The video it's actually hard to find. I was trying to find replays of it. It was tough to find online, but yeah. So clearly he'll be out for a while, you know, with an injury like that. But you immediately took to the group chat to have a super hot take on it. I think a lot of people echoed your sentiments. What did you have on it?
Yeah. So as soon as I saw the time on the clock, as soon as I saw the score, I checked out the game. But at that moment, I did not. It was just I had enough. Enough. Yeah. So. Yeah, I gotta sleep sometimes. So when I got up, saw the text, I was like, "Oh, let me go see." Saw the play, and the first thing that I text, and now I've seen it everywhere. Obviously, anyone would have this reaction to say, "Why was he in the game? It was 38-7, 7 minutes left in the fourth quarter. Why was he even in the football game? The game was over. They were not winning." And I get it that the drive, started, and then at that moment they were, in the red zone, almost scoring. 7 minutes left at that point, but still, like, why even be in the game? You know, he's already had injuries this year. Again, why you don't want your star player in the game when you can't win?
Yeah. So on the surface, I understand what you mean. I think the thing about it, I don't know if you remember this last year. Last year, his year was incredible, man. He had an incredible season.
For sure.
For a rookie season, he had 6 comeback wins. Now, 38-7, little out of hand, right?
Yeah,
miracles happen every day, and so I'm not going to sit here and try to make it seem like I felt like, or I knew he was going to try to come back, but he was one of those guys that even when they were down and out last year, 6 comeback wins, coming from behind after trailing in the fourth quarter, that's incredible. I think that they thought that was something that maybe he could have pulled off or at least make the game competitive, but. I agree with you largely. 7 minutes is like, go ahead and get that guy out of the game. You got to protect him against himself and live to fight another day. You're getting your asses kicked in front of everybody. Just go ahead and pull him out of the game and live to play another down.
Yeah. The other thing I thought of was RG3. I was like, here we go again. Washington putting a quarterback or having a quarterback in there in meaningless time or off an injury, coming back from an injury, risking it. For what? At least I think RG3 was a playoff game, though. So
it was a playoff game.
But yet still, risking it. And here we go again in a Sunday night football game, middle of the season, when the game was pretty much over, and now we can say that their season is pretty much over.
Yeah, no, yeah, it's over for sure. And I mean, it's unfortunate. You don't root for anything to happen like that especially to a young quarterback. But that's the other thing, and it's the interesting parallels with the Jaden Daniels injury and the RG3 injuries. They were both really young. Their skill sets are incredibly similar.
Yep.
Even though RG3 had more muscle, they're both really slim frame body types. Like the parallels are just crazy. And in both of these instances, I don't even know if you remember the RG3 game. People were screaming the same thing at the TV. Why do you still have him out there? He was out there playing on a bum knee, and then you watch his leg almost snap in half, when, in midair. So it's so many parallels between the two. The comparison's crazy. Same team, same franchise, clearly different coaching staffs, but it's just like, damn, that franchise can't catch a break to save its life.
No, not with a young quarterback who, again, RG3 showed promise in his rookie season. Jaden Daniels obviously did, going to the NFC Championship. And the other thing I thought was, I was talking about old rat-faced Shanahan. Did he put in a call to Dan Quinn and say, leave him in?
Let him play.
Let him play.
Through it. Yeah, but and also it's like, you say that, but I feel like RG3 and Jaden Daniels, and I, say what you want to about RG3. The dude could play football. He understood the position.
Yes.
He wasn't the best passer, but he was an above average passer, really good completion percentage, didn't turn the ball over a lot. He could have been their franchise quarterback for a decade if it wasn't like injury, riddled.
Yeah, I think that injury derailed his career.
His entire career.
Not everybody bounces back from those injuries. And for Jaden Daniels, he's going to have to bulk up. I've always heard he is slim. And, I mean, obviously you can see that he's slim. And it's like, dude, you got to be careful. It's the NFL. You say this about Bryce Young being small and slim as well. These quarterbacks, like, you can play in the NFL, but you gotta protect yourself and you gotta be careful. And sometimes you're just not gonna be able. Maybe your body's just not gonna make it.
Yeah, that's true. And I'll give. And we talk about size. In this instance, we're talking about Jaden Daniels being relatively slim. Yeah. I can't think of a comp in terms of how frail he looks as a starting quarterback that we deem was like great. I'm racking my brain. I mean, maybe Mariota, maybe. But I feel like Mariota had broader shoulders. Yeah. I'm struggling, but when you talk about like size, like somebody like Kyler Murray, he learned early, dude, I'm a slide. I'm not taking these hits.
But he's bulky. He's like a short, but he's stocky. Jaden Daniels is just slim, and that body can only take so many hits, so many falls, so many injuries. He's got to have like a Tom Brady offensive line in front of him to help him just not get touched at all.
Yeah. Yeah, and like I said, I mean, it stinks for him. I mean, we'll see what happens to their season. I don't know how things are going to play out. Maybe they can pull off a miracle, but, I mean, as of right now, if I had to bet money, I'd bet, they'll go ahead and just kind of hang it up and see if they can get them a really good draft pick, in the draft coming up this summer.
Yeah, they'll compete. Mariota's been serviceable. They're just kind of old as a team, and, maybe it was just 1 year. I don't know.
Yeah, could have been a flash in the pan. Something else that happened. So there's the Daniel Jones, led Indianapolis Colts game versus the Steelers. And, we kind of had some back and forth about Daniel Jones. He had a really crazy hot start. We saw how he was playing well after he left the Giants, starting quarterback for them this year. And then, they played their game against the Steelers. And I have to find the picture, but there's a picture of this gentleman when I want to say it was after his second pick, and the camera zoomed in on him right after they were calling a play, and all the other, all the players were running to the line of scrimmage, and the look on his face was sheer fear. He was scared out of his mind. The Steelers defense, credit to Mike Tomlin, credit to that line, credit to those linebackers, credit to those DBs. They were all over his ass. They were swarming him like bees. He couldn't get anything off. He couldn't see anything. He couldn't get clean looks. And it was a destruction of a quarterback. It's hard for me to remember a quarterback that had him playing so well all season and then just have a game like that where you just drop a turd in front of everybody in a big game versus the Steelers of all teams, who were playing okay, but they tried to give that game away because even with all those turnovers, they weren't blowing them out. Like, the game was still competitive. Even up until the very end, the game was still competitive. So I'm sure you've had a chance to kind of take a look at what took place there. What stuck out to you about Daniel Jones versus the Steelers?
So you say you haven't seen a quarterback like that in a while that happen. I don't remember that happening since Jake Delhomme against the Arizona Cardinals.
Wow, that's a damn good one, man.
Like,
that's a good one.
He was serving turnovers. He was giving out desserts to everybody.
Wow.
Yeah, but the Steelers, two things either happen, right? Daniel Jones, like you said, turned back into a pumpkin, or the Steelers, all the money they put in their defense, finally showed up and played the way they could play because they got carved up by Joe Flacco. They've been really carved up by everybody, but then they come out and outscore them, right? They've been able to survive, be above 500, playing pretty good football, but not great football. So the Colts have been awesome. Daniel Jones has been awesome. Jonathan Taylor been awesome. They've been the number one team, right, in the AFC. Again, I said I believed in them, so Daniel Jones, you're making me look stupid. But like I said, one or two things happen there, right? And we talk about this with all these quarterbacks who are having this revival. Is like, are they for real, or do they come back to reality? Is this reality for Daniel Jones, or is the Steelers, did they finally click for that defense? One of the two things happen, right? So, or maybe it's just a bad week. Maybe it's just a bad game. I don't know.
I think it was a combination of the two. And in that episode where you claimed, that you believed in the Colts. I mean, it wasn't a ridiculous thing to say. They'd been playing well up until that point. In that very same episode, I believe I said, and I quote, "I don't trust none of these motherfuckers." And it's because of things like that. Because we all knew that he's capable of having a game like that. We've seen him have bad games when he played for the Giants over the last couple of years. But I think to get to one of the original points you're trying to make, I think it was a combination of two things. It was a combination of the Steelers defense kind of figuring things out, that the defensive coordinator, Mike Tomlin, getting together and say, hey, we're just going to scheme this guy and we're going to take away all of his strengths and see if he can handle the pressure. And he couldn't. But also, you also have the other side of Daniel Jones being a relatively inexperienced quarterback in huge games where you're going to be dependent on him to really help carry your team and get them over the hump. So I think it was just kind of a healthy mix of the two that just unfortunately turned into 5 turnovers? Turnovers, 5 sacks,
Yeah, and just looking at the stats, again, the Colts, they got down kind of big but not huge. But this is a recipe to beat the Colts right here, and the Steelers got it. You make Daniel Jones have 50 attempts passing, and you hold Jonathan Taylor to 45 yards on 14 rushes. That's a recipe to beat the Colts right there. We know their running game is their strength. Make Daniel Jones throw it 50 times, and I bet you're going to beat the Colts every time.
Got it. Well, yeah, and they put him in a position to where they were like, he's got to throw it this time. So now it's like, hey, we're just going to drop everybody back. We're going to push our line. We're going to blitz.
Yeah.
We're going to come from the left. We're going to come up the middle. We're going to come from the right. He's going to scramble out. Somebody's going to hit him from behind. He had no time to think. And again, relatively inexperienced quarterback in big games. You're playing the Steelers, big game, coached by Mike Tomlin. Aaron Rodgers is their quarterback. And it's crazy. As big of a name as Aaron Rodgers is, we haven't really spoken a lot about him this whole season. But yet the Steelers are still formidable. They're still able to go out and win. He had to go out and outplay Aaron Rodgers, and he didn't stand a chance, man. It was over before it started. I watched that game from start to finish, and man, was it ugly.
There you go. That's it.
Yeah, good old Daniel Jones. All right.
Danny Dimes.
Danny Dimes. Oh, I forgot about that nickname. Danny Dimes. But them New York fans are ridiculous. They'll give you anything. Danny Dimes.
All right, so the other thing is off the field that happened the last week was the Philadelphia Eagles making moves, Howie Roseman cooking, trading, filling in the spots that they need help in while they're on this bye week.
Yes, no, it was huge, and during their bye week, good old Howie, got to clicking, started making his calls, and started making the moves for the trades. I'm curious, kind of what you grade the trades. You're much better at this type of stuff than I am. It's not a strength. I kind of have to lean on the experts on their opinions, but I value your opinions on this. How did you feel about the trades and the acquisitions that they made, the talent and what they gave up, and what they got back in return?
Yeah, so almost anybody could have been an upgrade at cornerback on the opposite side of Quinyon Mitchell. that's how bad Adoree Jackson and Keely Ringo had been. And that was going to come back to bite the Eagles once they play a team like the Cowboys when both receivers are healthy, or the Packers. They have a lot of receivers. Teams like that, Lions, these offensive juggernauts, that would be tough. No matter who, no matter what else the Eagles have on defense. So, the first trade they made, obviously, to get Michael Carter II, he was on the Jets. They're not going anywhere, so they were looking to make deals. Trade him for Michi, the receiver, and maybe some late picks. I don't really pay attention.
It was a 27.
I don't really pay attention.
No, it was a 20.
When you're talking 6 and 7,
seventh round pick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So nothing. Eagles, a receiver they kind of use sparingly, not really, but they get an upgrade at corner. He's more of a nickel corner, so I just thought, okay, depth, and let's see what else they do, right?
Gotcha.
So then, of course, out of nowhere over the weekend, then they get Jair Alexander from the Baltimore Ravens. He was having trouble finding the field for Baltimore. We don't know what they're doing at the moment. They've been behind the 8 ball all year, so they made a move. Again, late round picks involved. Now he's a starting corner, so already now okay. Now we got I say we obviously the Eagles have Quinyon and Jair Alexander, and you got Cooper DeJean, Michael Carter. They can be in the nickel. I look like Carter could fill that void that Avonte Maddox did in the past. That just another corner to add depth. I don't know what Ringo and Jackson are going to do, and I really don't care. And then today they pick up Jalen Phillips, defensive end, edge rusher from the Dolphins for a 3rd-round pick. I know when the Eagles have played them, he was kind of a problem, right? He got to the quarterback. So he's had some injuries the past few years. The first few years in the league, he had good numbers in sacks. So putting him in this system, again, with Vic Fangio, who he's played with, I think it's a win. I think all 3 moves were just unbelievable. They didn't have to give up a lot.
Correct.
I don't mind giving up a 3rd round for a young edge rusher like that to put him in the mix with the other guys on the line. And then, again, fixing that cornerback problem, adding that depth they needed desperately for this second half run.
Gotcha. No, yeah, and they were all really good picks, and I think the timing of it was probably what was the most surprising, approaching the trade deadline. And it allows them to kind of bring these guys in, and you don't have to rush them on the field, because the guys that they got traded for weren't pivotal pieces to begin with. This gives them a couple of weeks. Obviously, they had the bye week, but this gives them a couple of weeks to kind of let them understand the playbook, let them understand the scheme, understand how the team plays, and then just work them into the system slowly. Masterful moves, and I think it's easy to say that the Eagles made the best moves at the trade deadline than any other team. If you're giving grades, you got to give them an A, because the team was already so good, and they went and got the pieces that they needed in the weakest areas that they had. A+ across the board. It was good to see, and we'll just kind of see how it shakes out. Later into the year. Moving into these colder months when teams are actually starting to secure a playoff spot.
Yeah, and not to mention, they brought back Brandon Graham. We didn't even talk about that. Like that's happened. Yeah. That's happened right here before I think it happened actually before the game, the Giants game. But still, they had given him time, give him a few weeks to get back into shape, play in shape, get back in the rhythm. And again, now it's today. They don't play until Monday night next week against the Packers. So again, Jair Alexander, his former team, that's kind of motivation, and then just getting them plugged in. Again, against a really tough November schedule.
Yeah, tough November schedule, but none of the guys that were acquired, none of the guys that were picked up and signed, none of them have to rush into play, and I think that's the beauty of it. Your
Hmm.
team and your roster was still pretty intact. You don't have to rush these guys into anything. You could just give them 10 to 15 plays a game and just see
Oh
how
yeah,
they do. Let them get their conditioning back, let them get their win back, let them understand how the schemes work. Again, masterful, man. I love it. It's good to see it, and we'll just kind of see how things shake out, as we move on into December, because we'll be here before we know it.
Howie, man,
Yeah,
takes
Howie
thing,
all day.
he takes things the ski mask way.
Yes, yes, he does. Well, yeah, and in plain sight, and that's the other thing. You look at all these other teams. All these other teams have the same opportunities, but here he goes. He's like, you know what? Damn it, we're just going to roll the dice and make these acquisitions. And
That's right.
and we're gonna cherry pick these players that fit here with us and fit the culture. Yeah, man, I'm excited, man. Let's see how things go.
Yes, sir.
So, you want to talk about these Packers?
Yeah.
Packers playing the Panthers. What you got on it?
Yeah, so we mentioned the Eagles are going to play the Packers. Speaking of the Packers, I think they were your pick out of the NFC.
The Packers were my pick out of the NFC. So we both taking L's this week.
As one of the teams you believed in, and yes, we both take L's. They decided that they would lose to the Carolina Panthers at Lambeau, in which the Panthers dominated the clock. They run the ball. That's their strength. And they had a chance really to put that game away. Somehow Mike Jackson dropped a duck of a pass by Jordan Love that should have been a 105-yard pick six. That allowed the Packers to tie that game. Ultimately, then the Panthers won with the field goal. But that's a letdown, man. We've seen this from the Packers, right? They're hyped because they got Micah Parsons. They're hyped because Jordan Love. We're waiting for him to take that next step. He had a really good playoff run a few years ago. And they've got all these weapons. They obviously lost Tucker Kraft, which is going to hurt them. They're banged up in the receivers. Now, again, I don't want nobody to be hurt, but it is perfect timing. They're about to play the Eagles. So, again, I don't know. Again, does it show, are the Packers, are they just not for real? Because they've had these letdowns tying the Cowboys, losing to the Panthers. No disrespect to the Panthers, but, again, every other week you don't know what you get, right? They are much better with Bryce Young than Andy Dalton. That is for sure. And Rico Dowdle's been great for the Panthers, but this is more about the Packers. And again, to lose at home is a big deal to the Panthers, who at best probably finish 500 or a game below this year.
Yeah, so I looking at the game, watching the game. It seemed really like a slow-paced game. Mm-hmm. It seemed like a game that had to be slow in order for the Panthers to really have a chance. But what's most glaring to me about the game as a whole was that Bryce Young only had 100 yards passing.
Yeah.
He had 102 yards passing. So their defense held up, like you said. You mentioned Micah Parsons and, that acquisition and just how strong it was. It was also a game that was won with a field goal at the very end. So the Packers were competitive. Still a big letdown. I believe they were favored in that game. They still should have won it, so I'm not going to try to defend them. But even with the huge letdowns that they've had this year, they're still 5-2-1 in the NFC. They still have an opportunity to kind of turn things around. It's just unfortunate that these are one of these games. This was their their get right game at home, and they should have been able to kind of clear a path where they can just go ahead and just take the Panthers out and secure this win. They weren't able to do it. But hats off to the Panthers, man. They went on the road and got a tough win against a team that I don't think they really had a shot against. They got the opportunity to keep the game close at the very end, kick a long field goal, win it, take that win home, bring it back to Charlotte. Hats off to them, man. I don't have a bad word to say about them. Good job. Yeah, they did what they needed to do.
Yeah, I would say it's Bryce Young's best win so far as a pro. The Packers, this is how bad it is, though. The Panthers on the road have been horrible this year. The only road win they had was against the Jets, and they suck. So to go into Lambeau and win, that's a huge deal. And, again, it's a letdown for the Packers. And, again, we don't need them to bounce back against the Eagles once again. They play them next. But, I think they'll still be a playoff team. They got some divisional games left. But again, they'll still finish 10, 11 wins.
Got it. And I mean, and it's going to happen. Teams. I feel like every season, a great team loses a game where it's the what the hell happened type of game, and this was just happened to be their game. We'll see if things fizzle out. Maybe it's the beginning of the end for them. Maybe this is their downward spiral. I personally don't think so.
No.
But it was a game that they certainly should have won. But again, the Panthers went out there and did what they needed to do. Bryce Yard was like, give me $1 and 2 yards, and I'm going to make this work. And he did
all he
it.
needed. Yeah.
It's all he needed to get the win, kick the field goal at the end. Congrats. I'm gonna take my hat off to him. Good for them, and we'll see what the Packers can do next week.
Yeah. On to another team that lost this past weekend, and it was a big game, Bills-Chiefs. But I think
Huge
we got to,
game.
yeah. But I think we got to talk. Like right now, the Chiefs are looking into the playoffs. They're on the outside looking in. I still think they make the playoffs, but they've got some tough games as well, divisional games, Broncos, things like that. But it's a really, once again, they're 5-4, so not at the moment. So their season's not over. But we hype up Mahomes. They say he's an MVP candidate. He didn't have a good game. Buffalo is showing up now 2 weeks in a row. Now one was against the Panthers and Andy Dalton, but now against the Chiefs. These are those games every season. And I know we're talking about the Chiefs, and it's like I said, until you beat them, they're still the team to beat in the AFC, right? Until you knock them out of the playoffs, they're the team. So every time the Ravens, the Bills, I don't overreact and say, oh, my God, the Buffalo Bills, they're ready now, because they got to do it in the playoffs. And until they do that, then the Chiefs are still the team to beat.
True. And looking at the Chiefs, and again, I'm going to stand on I don't trust any team in the NFL. Everyone's up and down. Mm-hmm. If there is a team with a resume out of the entire league, out of every team that's played this season, the Chiefs they haven't had bad losses. Chargers 27-21, lost to the Eagles 20-17, kept that game close. Mm-hmm. Lost to the Jags 31-28. Josh Allen and the Bills, the Chiefs still had a chance to win that game against Josh Allen 28-21. Like they were still in reach. So
right.
They're competitive. It took them a while. They seem to get their flow back. And also their wins are big wins. Ravens 37-20, Giants 22-9. Lions 30-17, Raiders blowout 31-0, Commanders 28-7. So when they're on it, they're a tough team and a tough matchup for anyone. It's just that those losses hurt, and with their division being so competitive this year. But when you talk about them going into the playoffs, I don't know what their playoff matchup is going to look like. And the thing that's most overlooked about the Chiefs is that when they made their Super Bowl runs and they were having all of this success, they were hosting playoff games. I have no idea what the Chiefs are going to look like on the road in the playoffs. And, I could probably pull up their playoff road record, but to my knowledge, when they're playing on the road, they're not a good team in the playoffs.
Yeah, I think maybe one year they had to go on the road to get to the Super Bowl, but for the most part, we're used to seeing teams having to go into Kansas City to
go
win.
In the Arrowhead and win those games.
Yeah. So I think this year it's not going to be that way.
Yeah, that's a tough road. It's hard to do, and like so much so to where like it drastically changes your odds of making it to a Super Bowl when you have to go and win. And especially look again, just going off of where they are right now, they're third in their own division. Okay. So they're third in their own division, which means that the only way that they'll be able, as of now, to proceed is to win a wild card game and then win every single game on the road en route to a Super Bowl. I don't see it. It's very hard to do. Who's done that the last time? Didn't Eli Manning Giants do that twice? I think they did that twice. So I mean, it's rare. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but it's rare.
It's very rare, and it's the toughest road, especially now the way it's set up, the playoff bracket. But the Chiefs, again, you talk about, they're behind the Broncos and Chargers. Well, speaking of a team I don't trust, that's the Chargers. So
I don't trust the Broncos either. I don't trust them either.
I really don't either. Like you said, I'm starting to come to your side as there's more and more teams I just don't trust. I don't care
Yeah,
what
it's hard to
I don't
see.
care what they do. I mean, Broncos. I mean, winning's the main thing. They've won some ugly games, but as far as the Chiefs are concerned, again, going to be a tough out no matter where they play because again they have that championship pedigree. They still have Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, and they still have the referees. So they'll be fine.
Yes, they do. And the other thing I'll say is this, and this is just something to remember about the Chiefs. So we're sitting here, we're talking about like just their division record as a whole.
Yeah.
They haven't played the Broncos yet.
Oh no,
So
they got
they've got
twice.
two-
Yeah.
They got 2 games versus the Broncos. Their next game is going to be up against the Broncos. They'll still got that other game against the Chargers.
Yep.
And then, and this is the other crazy thing, and this is going to sound ridiculous now, but you guys know how this goes. They end their regular season playing against the Raiders. I know they blew the Raiders out, but division games are always a coin toss. So maybe they show up and hand the Raiders, another ass kicking, but that last game of the season, they're still going to have to go to Vegas and win that game. And who knows what their record is. They may need it to secure and lock in a playoff spot. Those division games are always a coin flip. I don't care what division you're in.
True. And they have the Colts and at Dallas. So not
at Dallas, yes.
not an easy schedule. No.
No, not at all. I totally agree.
Another quarterback reviving his career, and another team that we got to say, is this real or not? And it's the Seattle Seahawks and Sam Darnold.
Yeah, the Seattle Seahawks. Obviously we spoke about the Jaden Daniels injury earlier. So that kind of I don't want to write off that win. They went and got that win, but right now they sit atop the NFC West, which is I want to say probably one of the better divisions in football in the last decade.
Well, right
Those
now
teams
it's very,
have all. Go ahead.
go ahead. Something they're saying this season is very competitive.
Super competitive, and those teams, I kind of liken them to the NFC East, where the teams are always so competitive against one another that they beat each other up and kind of make the records, look a little mismatch. But the Seahawks are looking good. Right now they're 6-2. They're playing good enough football, but I mean, I hate being negative Nancy, man. I hate being the downer. I don't know what they're going to look like when the playoffs come, and there's so many other veteran teams that they're going to have to go up against that I don't know if I'm fully buying in on them. But right now they're doing what they need to do. How do you feel about them?
I think they're a playoff team.
Okay.
Now, again, I look at their schedule. I don't trust Sam Darnold. I think he'll put up great numbers. I just don't trust him. And so I look at their schedule. They have 4 more division games, 2 against the Rams, and they got the Cardinals and the Niners. And then they also play at Carolina, against the Minnesota, and then they're at Atlanta, which Atlanta is a tricky one. They're always a trap game for everybody apparently nowadays. But I'm going to circle this on the calendar because we talked about the Seahawks and we've talked about the Colts. We talk about Daniel Jones and Sam Darnold. They play Sunday, December 14th. So the battle of the backups that have revived their careers, the 2 teams, we'll see where they're at on December 14th. But I'm going to circle that. I'm interested to see, like, that could be a pivotal game for either team.
Yeah, gotcha. No, and I agree with you. And, looking at the schedule, that was actually something that I missed. I didn't realize that they'd yet to actually play the Rams, and they have to play them twice. And much like we were talking about with Kansas City having to go to Vegas to play Oakland in their last game,
Yeah.
I don't care who it is. I don't care who their quarterback is. The Seahawks are going to have to end their season playing the 49ers in San Francisco.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be a tough game no matter what. Another division game. I like the way the league has kind of, staggered these records to where you get big games at the end. And who knows? I mean, even if the 49ers are flailing and they've got nothing going on, there's nothing that'll make that team, that franchise, and that fan base happier than spoiling the Seahawks run to make a playoff appearance. So, we'll have to see. I'm circling that game. The end of the year is always fun, especially when teams are kind of out in front and maybe, they have a nice little padded record and they start resting guys, to go into the playoffs. I don't know if the Seahawks will be that good to where they'll be able to do that. They may have to play all the way through. But they better watch their ass, man, because playing the 49ers, I could see them taking an L that week.
Well, the 49ers, you mentioned, though, they beat the Seahawks in week 1, which that's week 1, but they beat them at Seattle. So, again, the 49ers are no slouch. All the injuries, all that stuff, Shanahan, he'll have his team ready. So that is a huge game, and it could decide if the 49ers or the Seahawks make the playoffs.
Exactly.
Because, again, I still like the Rams in that division, but for Seattle, again, like you said, another team that, I don't know if it's real or not. I don't trust Sam Darnold. So,
it's not a lot of people who trust Sam Darnold.
No,
and just real quick, just to kind of rattle this off for the NFC West, the only team that's not really holding their own is the Cardinals. Seahawks 6-2, Rams 6-2, 49ers 6-3. That's as neck and neck as you're going to get in the division that competitive.
Yeah, 3 teams.
And like you said, they've yet to play the Rams, so it's going to be fun, man. It's going to be a good close to the rest of the season.
Yeah.
I'm actually really excited for it. I'm usually more excited for the beginning parts of the year, but for this season, man, it's going to be really good as teams kind of try to round out their wins and be competitive toward the end of the year.
Yes. And so I got one more team. I put it on the list. We don't have it on this list, but can we talk about the Bengals?
Sure. Yeah, go ahead. So I saw you. Hold on. Now I saw, because you put it on there, and I think you were looking at this. And correct me if I'm wrong. You were looking at this from like a coaching perspective, and you were kind of looking at their wins and losses. And I kind of know what you're getting at, but explain yourself, because I have a rebuttal.
Okay.
But I do want to hear what you got to say.
So I've got I got a couple things. Two things. I got inside joke. So the Bengals, I told you, I said Zach Taylor, I think, is officially on the hot seat list. I kept him off early because Joe Burrow got hurt. And then they had a divisional win against the Steelers.
Okay.
But since then, they blew a game in which they gave the Jets their first win of the season. And then they managed this past Sunday to be up by 14. It was 41-27. They allowed the Bears to score, get a 2-point conversion, then get, what was it? What was it? No, I'm sorry. They came back, right? No, they came back.
Yes.
All right, let's read.
They were down.
Cut some of this out. Yeah. All right, so the Bengals, So this game, last past Sunday against the Bears, they were down. They came back. They took the lead. I thought the game was over.
We all did.
So then they managed to, give up a 58-yard touchdown in which neither safety knows how to tackle. And the Bears, they missed the tackle. They hit him. They don't wrap him up. Loveland, he goes all the way in for the touchdown. Bears win the game. Again, I know the players have to make the plays, but those are 2 bad losses. And again, we can't keep saying, well, the Bengals went to the Super Bowl. Yeah, but and their offense is good. Their defense is bad. Even in wins, their defense is bad. And on the flip side, and I'm going to let you, reply to that. I saw something, and I thought of this too. Is the offense just so good that you can just plug anybody at quarterback? Now, Jake Browning wasn't good, but Joe Flacco is doing just what Joe Burrow would be doing right now. So the offense, I don't think, is the problem, unless you have somebody like, I guess, Jake Browning, who just turns the ball over. But they haven't fixed the defense. And I don't know if it's the coaching, I don't know if it's the execution, but even in wins, they're giving up tons of yards, tons of points, and then now, again, blowing a lead to the Jets. A heck of a comeback, but already had given up 41 points to the Bears, and then give up that kind of touchdown to end the game to let the Bears take the lead. It's just bad losses, and I don't know if I can keep – I didn't say for sure. I just don't know if I can keep defending Zach Taylor and say – maybe it's just Tom.
All right, so I like a team that can make chicken salad out of chicken shit. It's we saw so Burrow goes down early in the year. All right, we write them off. We're like, man, it's over. It's going to be done for them. But when you talk about their defense, I understand that there's a lot that can be done from a coaching perspective on the defensive side of the ball, but sometimes you just don't have the players, you don't have the right guys, and it's just not going to work well for you. He made a trade for a veteran quarterback in Joe Flacco who was too long in the tooth. None of us really even paid any attention to that trade when it was made. The trade was made and we all just went, doesn't really matter too much. When the trade was made, the conversation was more about whether or not Shedeur Sanders was going to start for the Browns more than what Joe Flacco could do for the Bengals. And since then, all they've done is put up points. 42 points, against the Bears, 38 points against the Jets. Like you said, 33 against the Steelers, 27 against the Pack, 18 against the Packers. Like there's opportunities for them to be able to put up points and win games. And we didn't expect any of that from them. If your defense is getting the doors blown off of them, maybe there's some of that could be done, having to do with the coach. But they're working with what they have. And I think they're doing as best as they can. And it's tough when you can't win close games. I get it. Losing to the Jets has to hurt. But, still a division game is still a game that, that the Jets are going to show up and try to be competitive in. So I want to give Zach Taylor a little bit of grace. I know it looks bad. It's horrible on paper. And to win in that fashion and to let the Bears put up 47 points on you, I mean, it's a horrible look. But I'm not looking to run that dude out of town just yet. I'm not the guy that likes to kind of run and fire somebody that quick.
Okay. I can live with that. I'm just, like I said, I wanted to bring it to the forefront to say, hey, maybe, I don't know. He needs to be on the list, though. Maybe at the bottom, but he needs to be on that list. And then, I know I threw some random stuff out there about the offense, but, Flacco is serviceable. And, again, you give that man those many weapons, I guess he can be an old-looking Joe Burrow out there just slinging it around. But the other thing I'm going to say is I saw this today and I laughed. I didn't send it to you, and I didn't know what we were going to talk about, really. I didn't know if we was going to have the Bengals on here, but there was a great idea I saw online today. And it said at this point, the Bengals offense and the Browns defense should come together to form one team from Ohio that would be the most dominant.
Wow.
And I think it's the greatest idea I've heard in a while.
Yeah, no, it would be funny. And yeah, I mean, if you can put, because their Browns defense is legit, man. And, they can't do it all. I mean, they can't play defense, stop teams from running, stop teams from throwing the ball all over them and score points.
No. It's like, their defense is so good. The Bengals offense is so good. But then on the other side, they suck something awful.
Yeah, it's terrible. And
let's combine them.
Yeah, no, we can put them together, and I don't know what we'll call them. I mean, we could come up with a nice creative name. I'm trying my hardest to defend Zach Taylor. I'm outnumbered probably because it is a terrible look, especially 2 weeks in a row to two teams that they should have beaten because they had the ability to score more points than them. But realistically, I think it's going to be over for Zach Taylor. Because here's their record in consecutive weeks. Their next game, the Steelers, the Patriots, the Ravens, the Bills, and the Ravens again. And so that's their next 5 games. They could go 1-4. They could go 0-5. And I don't think that dude will make it to the end of the year losing those games. And every single one of those teams are killers. Yeah. Steelers, Patriots, Ravens, Bills, and then having to play the Ravens again with Lamar Jackson just being back, looking healthy, slinging that pill around. Derrick Henry, still a monster. Like, it's going to be ugly for them. You got to play the Ravens twice, and you got to pay the Bills at home. It could get real ugly for Zach Taylor, and he's lucky if he could be 500, going through the rest of the year. Maybe he'll be lucky enough to save his job.
Yeah, I think it makes it through the rest of the year. But on off season, they're going to have to think things.
Ooh.
Fun.
F-U-N. Now we're having fun.
All right, you guys know we like to end our show with something fun, something silly, and just something that we can have some fun with. And so this past NFL week, just watching all the games, a lot of great games, a lot of great matchups, and there were just some games that just seemed really boring to me. I think that the game of the week was between the Bills and the Chiefs. Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes. They've had that rivalry for years, and it's just something about that game that was boring as hell, man. Like, so the Bills were doing this thing. I think they call it the tush push, where,
okay.
Yeah, I don't know if you heard of it, but it's this thing where, everyone rushes up to the line and, you hand the ball off and then you just kind of just push the ball forward. Super boring. It's a dangerous play. It's high risk of injuries. And, I think it's something that the league should really look into. If I'm not mistaken, I think Drew Brees said something early in the year about how, it's just a boring type of offense. And, we saw it there. Were there some other teams that stood out to you who did something similar like to that this weekend?
Yeah, you said the Bills. They used Josh Allen. I saw the Seahawks. They used a tight end. In any of these times, did you happen to see like any false starts called, or was there any?
No, I didn't see any false starts. I just saw that the lines would get up. They would get up to the line and get really low. And the first thing I was thinking about was just the danger and like the safety of the players.
Yeah.
I think this is important. I know the NFL, they got real big, on the concussions and, just trying to prevent injuries. They changed the entire kickoff structure. They just want to make sure that players stay safe throughout the rest of the season. So, yeah, that's the first thing that kind of stood out to me is, I think it's something that should be looked into.
Yeah, I think there was more teams. I didn't see every game and see every highlight, but I heard, I saw there was like, it was a lot. It was a lot of tush pushing going on Sunday, and there, like you said, safety is huge, and I just can't see why the league would let this continue. The whole league doing this, and then also, it's illegal if they're going to be offsides or false starts. I don't know. Was like the commentators say anything? Did the other defenses get mad? Did they start yelling and crying and stuff?
No, I didn't see any of that, and. Look, man, I'm a down-to-earth guy. I like to call things as I see it. And I think what's most important is that we do our best to make sure that in the offseason that all the NFL teams get together and vote on whether or not this should be something that's ruled out of the game. I think they should make this something illegal so that it never takes place again. I think it gives the teams an unfair advantage. And I don't know if anybody's picking up on all of our sarcasm. But
Sir.
I think it's complete bullshit that all these other teams can do the tush push, and no one bats an eye, no one says anything. I didn't see anybody, calling when other teams do it boring, and the percentage of plays that they do it. They need to pick up a yard. They do what they need to do to pick up a yard. The Eagles came up with the tush push. It was a great idea. It worked for them. Now other teams are emulating it, and now it's crickets across sports coverage everywhere, all over TV, all over internet, all over radio, and all over podcasting, except right here. We gonna call that shit out because I don't like it.
Yeah, nobody, I heard the commentators, they would like jokingly say, oh, that's their version of the tush push. There was no zooming in cameras on the offensive line about false starts. ESPN wasn't talking about forward progress. They weren't leading off this morning with tush pushing. So, again, I'm glad the rest of the league can finally do what they could have been doing for the last 5 years.
Yeah, same here. And, and this was something that we talked about. I think it was one of our first episodes we ever did where we were talking about just how all these different teams had the opportunity in the offseason. If they thought that this was something that could work to their benefit, they had a chance to come up with their own version and renditions of it. It took until the middle of the season for them to figure it out. Good for them. If it works for them, great. Maybe some of them only use it in certain situations. But for the Eagles, it's been effective for what? Almost 3 years now?
Oh, 3-4 years. I mean,
3-4 years?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, we're like 4.5 years, and now finally NFL teams are doing it. And again, like I said, in the off season, let's see if all these teams that are using it will vote against it.
Yeah, we'll see. But and again, I'm gonna give, and I gave credit to the teams. I think we actually rattled them off when we talked about it last. The teams that voted saying, no, let's leave this in. We're not going to vote against the tush push, which is why it was able to be, still a play that could still be ran, in the league. It was not voted against, but it's just kind of funny. And I think I might need to go back and check that list to see if any of the teams who decided to do it, over the weekend, over the last few weekends, if any of those teams actually voted against it. I love pointing out a hypocrite, man. I love pointing that shit out.
Yeah, so again, so today we had fun with the topic, being fun and sarcastic on this tush push topic.
Yeah, but of course, I don't want to see it outlawed. It's a play.
No.
It's a play that works, that's effective. Any team can do it. Every team's got big guys on it. Every team's got stud athletes. Figure out how you're going to do it. You've got tape on it for years. You've seen the Eagles do it successfully. And if it's done well, you don't need a quarterback like Jalen Hurts that can squat 700 pounds to do it. It helps, but I'm pretty sure the guys, all the quarterbacks, except maybe the smaller ones, are have a good enough size and have got a big enough O-line to where they can push a ball forward and pick up 1 yard.
Yeah. No tush pushing Jaden Daniels.
No, not at all. We don't want him to snap in half.
No, you're right. Like I said, no tush pushing him. Yeah.
No tush push with Jaden or Kyler Murray.
No.
Or Tua.
Jaden Daniels got to double up on that chunky suit, man.
Yeah, he's gonna have to, man. He's shockingly thin, and I'll end on this, man. Again, I asked the question earlier, and I was thinking here, man. I was racking my brain. In NFL history, as long as you've been watching football your whole life, dude, can you remember a quarterback that thin?
No, I cannot. I can remember the thick quarterbacks.
There's long, thin. Because Brady wasn't a big guy. He wasn't that skinny. I brought up Mariota. He wasn't that skinny.
Brady at the combine looked skinny, looked frail, but not this. Like I said, Jaden Daniels is an athlete, obviously, very good, and obviously has proven himself. But like we said, looking at his frame, like I said, he is skinny, like we talk about. I think Bryce Young is still small, not just short. I think he's short and frail. But again, he competes, he takes hits, and you just never know which hit's going to do it. But the thing about that is, and I can't really think of another quarterback that's than this skinny. But the only thing I think about, the other thing I think about is the big quarterbacks that take a beating. We talked about it on another episode. These big quarterbacks in history have taken hits, and their lifespan in the NFL is short. So again, it's like these skinny quarterbacks. What do you expect?
Gotcha. Yeah, and I'm just going back and I'm just looking at some of the quarterbacks on the list of just kind of thin. There's one that kind of stands out to me because I don't remember him being thin coming out of Louisville, but apparently Teddy Bridgewater was pretty thin.
Okay.
And I don't remember that. Now, of course, he bulked up and that dude put on weight. Like, I don't think anybody would call him thin now, but apparently when he went through the combine, he was rated on the thin side. And maybe I have to go back and look at the photos. Nothing in comparison to what Jaden Daniels is. Like, it's scary how frail he looks.
You know who else was skinny?
As a starting NFL quarterback?
You know who else was skinny? He wasn't frail, but Randall Cunningham was kind of that lanky frame, but he got injuries too. So to just call out an ego there, but I think Randall looked kind of skinny at times. They wore more pads back then. Not to sound like an old man, but again, nowadays they barely wear pads in their pants, and their shoulder pads are so little. So, there's no wonder there's so many injuries. All right, that's another episode of Fanatically Speaking. I am Kent, the co-host and promoter.
I am Logoff, the Logoff legend, the hater of social media. I am the co-host and producer of the show. Thank you all for listening once again. We'll go through all the socials: Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. The podcast is available on all platforms. It's available on Apple, Spotify, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio. We are all over the place. Share, like,
follow,
review,
subscribe, download, comment. Yeah,
please. Share it with everybody that you know. And we're going to keep putting this stuff out for you. And we need some engagement. So reach out to us. Let us know what you think. Hit us with some questions. Throw whatever at us. And I promise you we can take it.
All right. That's all right.
Good, man.
I am good.
All right, hold on once.
Count
you
it.
go ahead,
Count
you
it
can kill
down to stop.
Now you can kill it whenever.
just
It
kill
don't
it.
matter. Yeah.